So I know a lot of you have been asking, when is the cost going to come down on humanoid legs? And we actually have an update today. Hugging Face now $2,500 for anyone who wants bipedal robot legs. And honestly, they look good to me. Ankles, knees, a couple extra hinges there, hip rotation. People are buying these cheap little MP3 players from like Alibaba and stuff in China, then rewriting the entire firmware using AI-powered codecs to make them do all sorts of stuff they were never intended to. Physics-aware sound AI can now let you listen to exactly what a dinosaur footstep should have actually sounded like. We'll look at Jose Crespo's argument for why $5 trillion of compute cannot buy what Sundar and Dario are about to build. Childlike AI uncovers why language grows more structured across generations. Can AI really be conscious? Well, we need some stricter scientific standards to start to answer that. DuckDuckGo installs are up 30% as users reject Google's AI search. AI might be eroding critical thinking. So we kind of knew it was going to happen, but Anthropic is introducing personal AI fluency scorecards in Claude, which means, you know, Claude's actually rating you and how smart you are. A rewrite of quantum mechanics that includes the force of gravity could finally achieve one of physics' biggest goals and reveal the ultimate fuzziness of time. So ready for this metaphorical Apple. But first, I need you to quantum smash this share button right down here at the bottom right of the video, and then send it to your biggest enemy. Alright, so I never thought Hugging Face was into hardware, but they now have officially released an open robotics project called Le Robot Humanoid. It's not fully humanoid yet, though. It's just the legs part, but it's pretty reasonably priced, I guess. I mean, I don't have much of a baseline for how much, you know, 3D printed robotic legs should cost, but these are $2,500. And they say the goal isn't to beat the most advanced robotics, but it's to give builders and researchers a robot that they can actually understand, fix, change, and use in experiments. So this user, I don't know how to say that name, but it says the limit of my inspiration equals the limit of Codecs. And that's seriously amazing. Bought this cheap MP3 player on AliExpress, but the Bluetooth audio shuttering and chunky controls had me shelving it. But then yesterday, out of nowhere, while I was in the shower, I had a eureka moment. After cracking open the shell and showing the chip to Codecs, I started investigating it like a champ. He's taking physical photos of, you know, the motherboard or whatever you call it, the chipset. And then once he connected it to his Mac, he just said, guide me through this whole thing. I want to build like a whole new firmware. And it just sucked up the OS. It analyzed the binaries. It whipped up a new custom OS with tweaks. Then it was like, hey, just run this command. And it started compiling it, putting it on the device, and it fixed the problem. The Bluetooth audio stuttering is gone. And this just made me think, how crazy. Are we going to, I guess, be in a world soon where all this kind of cheap gear can actually just have the greatest software around it ever? And look at that thing. Looks better than my iPhone. I mean, you gotta admit, satisfying clicks are something we all miss. But like Opus 4.8 dropped. Okay, so agentic coding, almost 70%. Because I've been playing a lot with anti-gravity the last few days, and I'm usually using Gemini 3.1 Pro. So dang, look at those improvements. Agentic terminal coding, still a little bit behind 5.5. But rocking multidisciplinary reasoning, agentic computer use. I guess that's probably something they're pushing hard. Big jump in knowledge work from the Google stuff, but not the Anthropic stuff. Then analyzing finances like a champ. All right. Opus 4.8, let's go. Anyway, let's talk about physics-aware AI generators. Pretty cool way to generate sound. We're not talking about 11 Labs anymore. We're talking about something that understands mass and velocity. All right, so imagine the future of Jurassic Park with AI building the dinosaurs, creating all the video in front of you. When you watch that dinosaur walk towards the camera, you do not expect tiny footsteps. You want a deep, heavy rumble, you know what I mean? Or do you? That's actually the problem that this research is trying to solve. Most video to audio AI looks at what's on screen. So it might look at a car or a ball or a crash, and then it thinks about what those sounds have been correlated to in the past. But it often misses the physical details that shape the sound, like the size, the weight, the speed, the impact, the environment, the material. So some researchers built a new AI system, part of actually Sony putting this together, called PAVAS. Stands for Physics Aware Video to Audio Synthesis. And in plain terms, it watches a video and then tries to estimate the hidden physical factors like an object's mass or velocity, and then it uses those estimates to create sound that better matches the scene. So if an object is heavier, faster, or it hits harder, the sound can then change in loudness and tone. And the researchers say that this is different from AI that generates video and sound together, and PAVAS is aiming to make more realistic sound the videos that you consume in the near future. Plus, it'll really matter for things like films, games, AR, VR, and robotic simulations, and of course, the whole Spider-Verse that Sony won't give back to Marvel. All right, next article is, as it says down here, nothing personal, just math. Pretty interesting stuff here. Jose Crespo always writes really interesting things. This one is good. All right, so this article basically says that the next thinking AI is not going to come from more scale. We always hear more scale, more scale, more scale. A few people are like, oh, it's architecture, but here's a good argument for why the next big breakthrough is going to come from a new mathematical architecture. The author basically argues that AI today is still too flat and says that large language models mostly push words through vectors, but the real cognition is the structure underneath. So he describes this 7-layer architecture: substrate, symmetry, bundle, connection, couplings, operator, and cognitive content as the architecture for a machine that could reason more like a real thinking system. So first, it needs a place for ideas to live. This article calls that the substrate, like a map where each concept gets an address. Next, each address needs internal structure, something like rotation, reflection, and the difference between left and right. Then those structures must connect across the map so that an idea can move through different contexts without losing its identity. After that, the system needs a way to link ideas to evidence. So that would be where a claim meets a clue, and then the strength of that clue changes with context. Only then should final computation happen. And the article's warning is that operations alone do not create understanding. Math can produce an answer, but the lower layers explain where that answer came from. So at the top, cognitive content appears, and understanding means the system can move from geometry to cognition, then back again and recover what it started with. And according to the author, it's only Anthropic or Google left that actually could put this kind of a thinking machine together, because he sees Google and Anthropic not just building bigger chatbots, but also moving towards AI systems with deeper mathematical structure underneath them. Geometry, topology, category theory, symmetry, evidence computation, and reconstruction, those are areas that we just sometimes don't hear about when the money floods in for scale. But there's some deep R&D going on, mostly in those two companies out of the big tech ones. So that's why he's kind of leaning on them to maybe pull off this sea change. I kind of get that. I've heard enough about Demis, maybe not as much Dario, but I definitely think he would be somebody who is thinking about this. And of course, actually, Jan LeCun, right? Like, he's been pushing against this whole LM thing for a while too, so probably should have thrown him into the article a little bit too. Okay, so this research is looking at a really strange pattern in language. You might find this one interesting. So across generations, language can become more structured, and it's not because anybody plans it, but because learners keep passing it on. It's like this infinite meme. So researchers built a simple computer model with childlike learning traits. Then they gave it language-like data and let one version teach the next version. Then each new learner had to copy what it learned and pass it forward. It's a little bit like the telephone game, and over time, the messy parts started to fade and the easier patterns survived. And that matters because children are learning in stages. They start with these broad ideas, then they make mistakes when they apply those ideas too widely, like thinking all birds can fly and then learning that penguins can't. And then those mistakes end up not being random. They end up showing the learners what matters. The learners reuse what they already know. The study found this works best when the model had enough layers and when the language was complex enough. So language may grow more structured because it has to fit the way that learners learn, whether it's AI or its children. Like sometimes you have to wonder, is language just like the grunts that mattered the most and just came to be this symbolic thing? All right, let's talk about whether AI could ever really be conscious. Researchers are calling for more rigorous scientific standards, some interesting ways they're defining it here. So before any of us can really even ask, is AI conscious, we have to figure out how to test it, right? So this is a little bit in that direction. As AI gets more advanced, a big question is moving from philosophy into science. Can AI have a real inner experience? Can animals, fetuses, lab-grown brain tissue, can it feel anything from the inside? These are deeply profound questions. And this new paper says the problem is not just whether or not we can figure out the answer, the problem is the test. The researchers argue that many studies of consciousness may be measuring basic information processing instead of consciousness. So in plain terms, the system might react to information, sort it, or use it without having actually felt that experience. And that difference matters. That's what we're looking for. Popular experiments like visual masking and binocular rivalry can change both awareness and the brain's general availability to process what it sees. So the results can blur two things together, seeing information and consciously experiencing it. Next up, you might have found this video using DuckDuckGo. I mean, it's possible. People are switching to it because Google search they think are pushing AI too hard in their face. Google recently announced a major change to search. We already covered that at Google I/O, and instead of mainly showing lists of links, Google wants search to act more like a conversation. I mean, to me, this makes more sense. It's kind of the way that I go, and I'm starting to really try to interact with all the data in the world. So I get it. At a certain point, Google has to cannibalize what they do. I still find Google searches helpful sometimes, especially when I'm unsure what credible links to click on and things like that. So there's a place for it, but yeah, what I used to do to solve a problem, like find links and then read what people wrote, is pretty much replaced today. So I understand answering questions from AI overviews. I have found myself sometimes typing questions into the Google search bar and then just reading the Gemini response. And I think to myself oh, I'm surprised I didn't just open up my Claude or my Gemini app. But handling longer searches, it seems what users want. But there's certainly many users out there that are upset about this. And the concern is that AI can absolutely be wrong. It can hallucinate. Some of these answers are weird. Some of them have gaslighting tendencies. Some of them are biased. It's maybe not as diverse or it isn't as diverse as the full internet. And that kind of sucks. It's putting another filter in front of us and the stuff we want to know about. But luckily, DuckDuckGo is still here. They say they're benefiting from that frustration, and I'm glad. Hopefully they do get more market share. Google's going to be fine. I'm not worried about them. And the company reported US app installs rose about 18% week over week after Google's announcement, growth peaking above 30%. And they said more people visited their AI-free search page, where AI features are turned off by default. AI might be eroding critical thinking. It probably is. Windows closing, try to get in now. Wait, get into what? Not critical thinking? Thinking? Get in now. Think. Get in now. That's a perfect example. I'm getting so dumb, dude. So we all know AI can make some people work more confidently, sound more confident. At the same time, it makes their judgment weaker. Most leaders who think their teams are using AI are just helping them, making them sharper. But the article says something deeper is happening. Workers are not just using AI to move faster. They're starting to let AI decide for them. Researchers call this cognitive surrender. And that means people accept AI answers with little checking, even when their own judgment should step in. In one study, AI helped workers when it was right, but when the AI was wrong, workers did worse than people who had no AI at all. The scary part is the workers accepted the wrong answers over 80% of the time, and their confidence still shot up. So what's your thoughts about your large language model keeping tabs on how smart you are, or at least how fluent you are when you talk to it? I mean, it kind of makes sense. I knew from that leak, Anthropic's model, every time you talk to it is kind of figuring out who you are, what you want. I know that's probably not the only model doing stuff like that, but it's interesting to hear about a Fluency scorecard. Really makes me wonder if I'm living up to the expectations of my LLM. Probably not. Okay, so Anthropic is testing this new AI Fluency scorecard inside of Claude. It would live inside of Claude settings where a user could ask Claude to review their own activity and create a personal report. Now, the scorecard would look across chat, co-work, and Claude code sessions. Then it would score those sessions against 11 visible habits. And those habits are tied to skills like setting clear goals, framing the conversation well, and checking the quality of the answer. So instead of only judging Claude's output, this feature judges the human side of the conversation too. Early signs suggest the score may appear as a number like 7.5 out of 11, and Claude would also show which habits are strong and which ones could improve. And this follows Anthropic's earlier AI fluency research, which studied about 9,800 people anonymously in their Claude conversations. And that research found that the best AI use often comes from iteration, meaning users kept refining their conversations instead of stopping after the first answer. So, what do you think your score is? All right, next up, creative lawyers. So lawyers are now arguing over what AI actually is because the answer could decide who gets blamed when it causes harm. So yeah, they're getting pretty creative there. So I know this sounds kind of dumb, but imagine you're a lawyer and you have to answer this question. What is a chatbot? Is it a product? Is it like software that a company sells? Kinda. Is it a service? Is it like something that helps people make decisions? Yeah, it's kind of like that too. And each of those answers changes who might be responsible when the AI discriminates, causes harms, gives information that leads to somebody breaking the law. So in some US states, lawmakers are trying to stop AI from being treated like a legal person. Ohio, Idaho, and Utah have pushed the idea that says AI is not sentient, meaning it does not have awareness. California and Colorado are more focused on how AI is used in jobs, housing, healthcare, and discrimination. And Europe is taking the broadest approach with stronger rules around privacy, transparency, and company responsibility. So we'll have to see where this all ends up. All right, next up, let's talk about a world model that I really didn't see coming. When I think of world models, I'm almost always thinking of just like physical world simulations that humans walk around, something like GTA or something. But Biohub has released what it calls a world model of protein biology. And the truth is, even though it's very small, that is also a world model. And in fact, a world model at that scale is actually really interesting. So that means that the AI system was trained to learn the patterns behind how proteins fold, interact, and work. So it was trained on about 2.8 billion protein sequences from across all types of life. And then it turns those protein patterns into 3D structure predictions, including how the proteins connect with each other. So this is where it's a little bit different from AlphaFold. We're actually thinking ahead of time about how it folds and how it fits with other things. So as many ways as something can fold, which is like nearly infinite, and it has to like cut through this huge possibility space, how they come together seems like an even bigger possibility space. But in lab tests, researchers used it to design binders for 5 different cancer and immune targeting systems. And even though the search took days, that's way better than months or years or forever. And some binders showed strong affinity, specificity, and stability. So even though AlphaFold is great at structure prediction, this Biohub model is open prediction, search, and design, all for protein biology. Pretty cool stuff. And last but not least, let's talk about quantum and gravity and everything around us. We're going to ask the question, does gravity create reality? This is kind of like flipping on its head this idea that there's all these tiny dimensions in the very small, which is sort of what I've been told for many, many years. Zach Slavinsky says a shocking path to a theory of everything, when he's not wrong. A rewrite of quantum mechanics that includes the force of gravity, but it does it by flipping everything on its head. So what if all scientists that say, I've been trying to solve the gravity problem, had it the wrong way around? For decades, physicists have chased one huge goal, a theory of everything. That means one framework that can explain gravity and the strange rules of the tiny particles at the same time. What can describe the very big and the very small? Now, the usual path has been to take gravity and squeeze it into quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics already works very well for the other 3 basic forces of nature, so that does kind of make sense. But after almost a century, gravity still just doesn't seem to fit in there. So the article says some physicists are starting to just give up on that. And why don't they try the opposite move? Instead of changing gravity to match quantum mechanics, What if we rewrite all parts of quantum mechanics so that gravity has room inside of it? All those tiny little forces, maybe they need to be scaled up until they explain gravity. It's like looking at a room and realizing that the piano never fit through the doorway in the first place, so the entire room must have been built around the piano, he argues. And this could also help explain how the fuzzy particle world turns into the solid reality that we see every day. New tests are being explored with levitating diamonds, glowing metals, swinging pendulums, and ticking clocks. Or ticking clocks, ticking tick-tocks is what I meant to say. Oh, we're so close to the end of this video. How did I blow it at the end? Whatever. Nobody knows the actual answer yet, but the hope is that this strange path of reversing everything might show physics where to look next. I think that would be pretty fitting if instead of the breakthrough coming from getting even more tiny, we just admit might have got the whole thing backwards. Very much be like an Einstein moment. So smash that, or quantum smash that share button right now. Give this video to anyone that you think might think it's interesting. World's changing really fast. I try to stay up on all this news. I try to help you guys think about all the things that are happening in context. And I love doing this. So I just want to keep growing this channel and just do it. I'm already happy. So just want to do it and do it and do it more. See you in the next video.